My mother and my stepfather both tested positive.
This thing is moving at a rapid rate where it's killing people very quickly.
The novel coronavirus has made its way to the United States with a confirmed case.
There's currently no vaccine outbreak.
The world economy has been rocked by
Our lives is more important than money, right?
Wow, I can't believe I have it.
It's been a big impact on my family.
When it hit San Antonio, I was just really nervous.
My business has 100% been affected by this.
Having a civil rights movement during a pandemic. I think there's certain things in our human existence where things just clash together at certain moments in time where it just leaves a much bigger impact than it would have if they didn't clash together at that time.
Yeah, so I think it's very interesting and unique having a civil rights movement in the pandemic, simply because we were told to stop, in order to stop spreading this virus, we need to be still. We're completely still, but there's this global movement that's going on at the same time. Stillness can bring focus. Like when you're shooting at a moving target while you're moving, it can be very difficult. But when you stop moving, you can get a clear shot at it. And I think it's evident that corporate America and everybody finally sees the target. Like we can finally see what we truly need to focus on. I think the pandemic has really helped us to see that.
So first we had the health crisis, right? The pandemic. Then shortly after that, then we had the economic crisis on top of that. And then on top of that was this civil rights movement. And so it's no surprise, like everybody's been like, there's so much going on right now. I kind of feel like, well, if there was ever a time to change the world for the better with like this civil rights movement, now is the time. People are listening, they're at home. It just feels like everything's changing. So it does feel organic to me that this is happening.
Estos tiempos complicados siempre traen algún significado. Y no sé por dónde empezar a verlo. Hoy la calle está ardiendo y el fuego viaja con el viento. No hay quien pueda apagar este incendio y las mareas están subiendo. Las estrellas que nos guían ahora se han nublado y los faros en la costa siguen apagados. No hay que dejar que esta penumbra pueda más. Es ese calor dentro de ti también nos puede iluminar.
I truly think that the heart of a person is what really matters. And I think that the people who have started to speak up or show that they are sensitive towards these certain subjects, or they have empathy towards certain people that are being oppressed, I think now is the time that they're finally being heard. And I think somehow that there's this courage or this boldness that has been birthed out of being still and watching.
I think it is extremely challenging, and I do think it's necessary. And I wish that things were different. I wish that we weren't in this predicament that we've been in for so many years, history continuing to repeat itself. But I'm glad that people are being brave and standing up and speaking out, and that there are cities that are aligning and allowing people to paint the ground with messages, allowing people to, gather and speak.
I think a civil rights movement occurring during the pandemic is just because it's a pandemic. First of all, a lot of people are alone. So you get to reflect on your thoughts, reflect on who you are, reflect on situations going around. Second of all, you get to reflect on your financial stability, how you're surviving, how you're able to improve yourself. And third and foremost, you get to really evaluate what's going on with other people and other people's lives.
The pandemic and civil rights are so intertwined because the pandemic has just completely compounded on all the inequities and systemic inequalities and just really amplified them so much to where most people just can't look away. It's really dire. Our marginalized communities are being hit extremely hard by COVID-19, and it's really just brought all of this kind of to a head to where we can't look away.
There's already fears at a heightened level. There's already anxieties at a heightened level. To have these type of social injustices going on, yes, I think it does impact us very, very much so. I think it brings out some fears that maybe some people didn't even know they had.
I think it was a perfect storm in an emotional sense. People were anxiety-filled, unaware, feeling a sense of just out of sorts. And then we had to reprioritize. We had to reorganize the way that we run our businesses. Some people lost businesses. Some people lost hella money. So economic hits were happening. And so you get an emotionally charged individual sitting in their home, and then they see this violence through the lens of their phone and through social media. And then it's everywhere. It goes viral the way that it did.
George Floyd repeatedly told the officers that he could not breathe after an officer knelt on his neck.
The George Floyd murder was the most horrific act by a police officer ever filmed in recent history. And what I think that did was it changed a lot of people's perspective on the civil rights situation.
The death of George Floyd has caused national outcry in this country. The death of Breonna Taylor, and the list can go on. We're losing Black lives at a rapid rate right now in this country, and it's due to systemic racism.
Innocent people being killed. For what? For what? For what? And so now you're already adding fuel to a fire that has been burning for years, and to keep putting gas on that fire, it's not good. And I feel sorry for the families. I feel sorry for people who have been directly impacted for it. And my deepest condolences go out to them. And I just hope that people start to speak up more for the people that aren't speaking up or who can't speak up.
The first big protest after George Floyd was murdered here in San Antonio, I had never seen anything like that before. The amount of people that came out, the folks who, constantly, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this, but I couldn't look away. I had to show up, and the amount of energy there was just, it was really powerful.
No justice! No peace! No racist! Police!
When we overtook the streets and traffic and thousands of people like San Antonio's never done before, and the folks in the cars who were stuck there with thousands of people marching by them were giving us fists, were clapping for everybody, there was no sense of frustrations or anything. Everybody, like, you could feel that support even through the windshields and everything, and it was powerful.
Everybody was already watching on social media, on TV, and so when that happened, people were already glued to their screens. It did make people more aware, and especially that we're all in this together. And that's why I believe that the Black Lives Matter movement went global, and it wasn't just here in the United States. I mean, there were protests across the world, and I thought it was beautiful.
They were protesting passionately the same way that we're protesting here in the States, and I'm talking thousands of people. And it's extraordinary to see that people around the world are taking up that cause. And we just would hope that here in America we do the same for others when they are in need and when they're going through.
There's a global pandemic happening right now, and it's quite amazing to see people rise up and use their voice to speak out against oppression.
In a dry field, death sounds like a symphony as crisp petals fall to the ground. The grass is too hard to blow in the wind, so it weeps in fragility. Stems struggle to stand because their roots find little nutrients though they search. Blossoming sounds like folklore, mere fiction to these young buds because their future is limited. Yet in the distance there seems to be life, enjoyment and glory. Their colors taunt us vibrantly. Pollen spreads like love. We hear laughter under our wailing. We see smiles under our tears. Surely they will stretch out their roots and pass along this living water. Surely they see us fading.
I think people have the right to assemble. People have concerns. That's why we're in this beautiful country. If you feel like there's injustice, you can definitely assemble peacefully. Keyword is peacefully. I was not born in the US, so I know what it's like to be a minority. So I do feel some of what's going on and the anger that happens. I just believe some people are not going about it the right way. I guess most people can agree rioting and looting is not the answer.
I agree with speaking your mind and protesting. The only thing that was my concern was they were protesting at the courthouse and the Justice Center and in the front of our buildings. So I was really concerned about vandalism or any type of damage. That was the only thing that I was really concerned about, was any damage. I'm glad that everything was peaceful, but sometimes you just don't know. You see things on Facebook or Twitter that they're going to burn the courthouse down or they're going to break windows, and that's really disheartening for me, because it's like my house. It's my home.
It's always a good thing that we're having a civil rights movement, because we really make some serious change in the country and in the world about making sure everyone is treated fairly and justly. The scary thing, there is a pandemic and we can easily get each other sick and spread this virus rapidly.
I think that, as she stated, the reason for protesting that started everything off, I believe that it is 100% valid, right? I do understand that. I didn't agree with them protesting during this pandemic because we see the results now. I'm not just saying about the pandemic, about the protesting. It's also with us going out during the holidays, right? The state, in our opinion, was opened up way too soon. We all pretty much are looking at that mistake now. However, I think that protesting could have been done in a different way, but had it been organized. But I mean, you know what was happening out there. There was people that were opportunists in the protesting, and unfortunately, you know, it put a bad light on the actual reason for the protests. And that's unfortunate that the people that were destroying properties or robbing people in their homes, or throwing this is going, or businesses, really took away from the point of the protest. I support them protesting because they have a right to do so, and we were not there to stop them from protesting. We were simply there to make sure that they had a right to do it, and that they were protected to do what they have a right to do. They can go and they can protest. But was it the best time to do it? No.
For me, as an LGBT advocate, I stand with those that are oppressed, because I've been in that scene where someone has made me feel small and made me feel little.
Educate, provide guidance, mentorship. What we're missing is that. My wife and I always say, when you meet someone that shows any form of racism, I always say to them, I don't blame you, I blame your mom. That to me is me trying to tell them, look, racism is taught. If you lived in a society where it takes a village, when you exude that kind of behavior, someone will stop you. Most of these young people or adults who exude that behavior, no one was ever there to say no.
But he threw the rock. He tried to hit my sister, but he almost hit me about that much away from me. And I sure wish he had hit me with that rock. I would pick up the rock right next to me and hit him right dead in his face.
It just baffles me that we're even still fighting this shit. Because it seems so stupid to hate. It just does. Our diversity is everything. It's the spice of life. It makes things beautiful. So I'm there, man. Black Lives Matter. Everyone deserves the right to be celebrated. They just do, and to be respected and to be treated fairly.
Taking advantage of anyone that you meet, anyone that you talk to, and treat them like a human being and not like a color or anything else. You bleed, I bleed. You go to sleep, I go to sleep. We take care of our families, that's it. What can I do to help you? Help me help you. I think if we really start doing that as a community first, well, I think first within our families, right? Then within our communities, that's where we start making a cultural change on a broader level.
In this country, the minority is becoming the majority, and we have a voice. We have our rights to go and protest and speak out to oppression and tell people that these things are wrong.
Más cariño. Más cariño. We need more cariño. We need more of that sweet empathy between us in the way we handle each other, in the way we handle those that don't agree with us, in the way we handle information, you know. We need to do it with care, right? Cariño. We need to do it with care, with loving care, because we're all we got.
There's a big difference with tolerating your neighbor and loving your neighbor. And I think San Antonio does a good job of loving your neighbor. You see, like when you love your neighbor, you see the color and you love them. You see their culture, you love them. You see their pain, you love them. And I think that San Antonio, or I pray that San Antonio could somehow lead a charge in Texas on how to truly love your neighbor.